Good evening everybody, today we're going back down the rabbit hole of Buckethead's Pike album series with Pike 14, The Mark of Davis. So, let's begin. Woo! Released May 31st, 2013, the pre-sale of Pike 14 made reference to basketball star Pete Maravich, saying the album was Pike rhymes with 3,667 points and an incredible 44.2 per game, which was the scores accumulated by Maravich during his career. The album's cover art is the first Pike cover to feature a roller coaster on the front, a theme that would return many times later down the series, and is suitable for Pike 14 as it definitely has its ups and downs. The album kicks off with track 1, Ricochet, beginning with heavy metal riffage, shred solos with numerous crazy tapping sequences and funky bass interludes. Certainly not a track for everybody, but it has a great flow and is a good opener. Track 2, Nebula, starts off somewhat disjointed, but really kicks into gear at the 50-second mark with a short but delightful solo, before handing off to some signature Buckethead bass slapping and heavy metal riffage. Short but enjoyable. Track 3, The Canals, is driven along by an excellent bass melody with gloriously dark undertones and is a nice shift in pace. Like the previous two tracks, it might not have the Buckethead wow factor, but again, it's enjoyable. Track 4, Chickephant, is by far the longest track on the album at almost 10.5 minutes, and while it definitely showcases Buckethead's supreme shred skills, it feels more of a backstage warm-up than an actual song, and in all honesty is a tough listen given its length, one that will probably make most people check out after a few minutes. For track 5, Dry Ice Screeches, Buckethead picks up what seems to be the banjo, although it's pretty hard to tell, and like track 4, feels like a pre-gig warm-up rather than a song. Easily the album's weakest track so far. Track 6, Death Star Surface, picks up where the first 3 tracks left off with heavy riffs, drums and tapping sequences. Although not as strong as the opening tracks, it's still in the same vein even if it's not as enjoyable. Track 7, Tree of Lanterns, is essentially more of the same from the first 5 tracks, heavy riffs, tapping sequences and banjo noodling, like an off-road trip to Inbred Mountain. The album ends with track 8, the gloriously titled Elephicken. 51 seconds of funky bass noodling that, much like tracks 4 and 5, don't really leave a lasting impression and certainly not one you will ever revisit again. After adding up the rating I gave for each track, it came to a disappointing 38%, which I categorise as below average. The first 3 tracks are well worth a listen, but the album really loses its flow from track 4 onwards. Overall, given how consistent and enjoyable the previous handful of Pikes had been, Pike 14, The Mark of Davis, unfortunately doesn't quite hit the mark. And as big of a Buckethead fan as I am, and as hard as it is to say, I really don't like this album, at least the second half of it. So what's your rating for Pike 14? To work out what percentage you give the album, rate each song out of 5 stars, add up your total, and divide it by the total score possible, which for Pike 14 is 40. Then times it by 100. So does The Mark of Davis hit the mark? What do you think?